A funny story about Toby Mac concerts. I go with my mom and my former boss. We go to a lot of these Christian concerts together because they're both really into them. And we went to Crowder and Toby Mac. I got roped in because I like Crowder. Out of all the CCM artists, if you will, he's the one that I like the most.
I'm getting comfy over here on the couch.
And so we go to this Toby Mac concert, and he's running around, jumping around like rock star style jumping around, and every time he landed he would like kind of shift and wobble. I was like, man, that guy's too old to be jumping like that. it's like he's literally would just like huge jump and land, and he's like kind of leaning off to the side a little bit.
MCL turf.
All the old ladies are like, yeah. I'm like, Toby Mac making white women dance since 1999.
He's been doing it forever.
Yeah.
Seems
DC
like.
Talk.
Yeah.
Into who Toby Mac is now. Yeah. I actually really like him. I think he's catchy. I think it's interesting music.
Yeah. I feel like he's kind of like, I don't know if I'm saying this right. He's like the Taylor Swift of Christian music. Every one of his songs he drops, they're going to get stuck in your head when you listen to it, and you can't get it out. I don't know that Taylor's okay, but every one of her songs gets stuck in my head, and I cannot get it out. I don't know what they do, like something where they know your brain, and they get into your brain, the certain wavelength, and then once you they don't leave an ending on it or something, and so your brain replays it in your brain over and over. They're good at it. Both of them are really good at it. So I hate that about him, but I love that about him.
No, I think his music's fun. It's a weird genre. I don't really know what you call that. It's like kind of pop, I guess.
Yeah, pop,
rap, pop, little alternative thrown in there. Yeah, interesting guy. Cool stuff. But yeah, making white women dance since 1999. Old white women dance since 1999. Welcome back to the podcast.
What's up?
My name is Zach. I'm one of the pastors here at That Church. I'm joined today by Luke,
What's up?
who's one of our leaders here at Pointman. This podcast is designed to help men connect with their Bible, to grow in their relationship with Jesus, and to make Jesus known to men everywhere. And before we get into the episode itself, make sure you like and subscribe here on YouTube, or if you're listening on a podcast platform, make sure that you rate and review, as it helps for the podcast to reach more men, for them to grow in their relationship and in their faith. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
So today it's a one-off episode. We've been doing episodes inside of our Bold series, our Bold Breakfast series. But we were just in here chatting, kicking it around a little bit.
Yep.
And we're going to go in a different direction today.
Yeah, we're going to read a Bible verse, and we're going to talk about this Bible verse because it has been blasted into my brain. God is speaking to me about it, and Pastor Craig speaking to me about it. JC was speaking to me about it. I listened to a podcast this week. They were speaking to me about it. Then I read it this week as well. So it was just like,
talk about it.
Let's talk about it. God wants us to talk about it, I believe. So let's do it. It comes from Matthew 16, starting in 24. It is in 3 of the Gospels. It's in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. It is not in John. It's Matthew 16, 24 through 28, Mark 8, 35 through 37, and Luke 9, 23 through 27. But I'm going to read the Matthew one because that's the first one he came to. So let's do that one. Matthew 16, 24. Then Jesus says to his disciples, "Whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me will find it. What good will it be for someone to gain the whole world yet forfeit their soul? Or what can anyone give in exchange for their soul? For the Son of Man is going to come in his Father's glory with his angels, and then he will reward each person according to what they have done."
And if you're curious, while we were talking about Toby Mac on the front end, he has a song where it says, "Why would you want to gain the whole world but lose your soul?" Ooh. And so that's how we ended up on Toby Mac to start the episode.
Yes. The spot that really sticks out to me is gain the whole world. What does that mean to you if you gain the whole world? Like, what's that?
Yeah, so tonight we are in week 2 of our Pointman semester, and it's a conversation on abundance. And so whenever I read that, part of the conversation tonight is there's a traditional thought process in the church of like it's wrong to be successful, to accrue wealth and resources and things is just inherently evil in general. Part of our conversation tonight is actually kind of rebuking that a little bit because there is no standard for being unsuccessful in the world by the Bible. In fact, the parable of the talents, it's by which, or the talent is given to those by what their talents will allow them to multiply.
Yeah.
And so one's given 5 because he can go and make 10 out of it. So there is some wrong theology that's been built over the history of the church about it. You have to be poor, you have to be worthless. But I do think that what is it to gain the whole world to lose your soul? Whenever you're talking about gaining the whole world, it's if your thinking is out of whack, your worship is out of whack, and you're gaining and you're accruing wealth and resources and things and houses and boats and cars and all these things, but your soul is lost. What good is it in the end of the day?
Yeah, it kind of, when you were speaking just a minute ago, kind of reminds me of the verse in the, I have to look it up. I think it's Luke 16:10, where it says, those who are given little, that do well with what they're given with little, will also receive much. So God's saying, you do well with whatever I give you that's a little bit, and you do really good with it, which resources, time, energy, finances sure could be a part of that, but if you do well with a little, I will give you more.
You see that you just got scared to say finances, which is it's something that's been built into us as growing up in the church and hearing people talk. It's always been the verse in Mark. It's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God. Has been abused
For sure.
and it's been utilized to vilify. We even there are prosperity gospelists out there. I'm not saying that this isn't a thing, but there are those who overuse it. the give much and it will be given to you. They overuse that as well. But there is no standard by which financial success is evil. It's how you execute, the way that your spirit moves once you've accrued or in the accrual of financial resources. That is evil. Does your heart harden because you can now provide for yourself? Does your worship stop because you'd rather spend time on your boat that you bought? Like that's the evil. The evil isn't having success in the financial world. Go back to the talents again, but then why would their different abilities be rewarded?
Yeah, that's good. And I think one day we're going to stand before God, and He's going to say, there's going to be 2 things that are really going to stand out. God's going to say, what did you do with my son? What decision did you make based off my son? And then 2, what did you do with the resources and finances and everything that I gave you? What did you do with those? Mm-hmm. And you're going to have to stand there and say, well, you gave me the ability to speak with people so I can talk to myself, and you did nothing with it. You went out and you partied with all your friends. You went out and hung out with the guys every single night of the week. You sat there and played softball every season until you died. And then you were really close to the guys, but what did you do for me? And I'm going to sit there and I'm giving an account for that. And God's going to say, okay, well, what did you do with, I gave you a bonus check and you spent it on, yourself and getting away from your family, or, spend it on all parties, or I don't know. And God's like, did you give 10% back to me because I blessed you with that? And you're like, well, no, I didn't. Why didn't you do that? And you're going to stand there and you're going to have to account for that. And so that's what I think about a lot, is where God's just saying, I give you stuff and you need to put me first in those things, but you also need to think about me before you do anything else, because I'm not going to bless you because of it. And then you're going to have to give account for the things that I give you.
Yeah. When we owned our gym, we worked exceptionally hard to build the gym in the first place. So we bought it, and there was like 25 members or so. And the day we bought it, half of them left. And so we had to rebuild the whole gym. We built it to about 100 people. The gym was popping. It was busy every night. There were people everywhere. We had teams and we had competitions going on. We had just stuff going everywhere. It was going great. COVID hits. Gym shuts down. We lose half the members again. So now we're back to about 50, which 50 versus 15, we'll take it all day. But we had become accustomed to this level of income and level of resource and people that we could call upon to do things with and to build with. And so we started the rebuild process. We launched a church inside of it. In the beginning of launching the church, I firmly believe that our business was blessed by our willingness to allow the church to be there. Something happened, though, over time, and we had gotten hardened against the church being there. Our business stalls. There were rightful reasons for us to be hardened against the church and what was going on, and there were rightful reasons for us to push back against it. But our heart issue had changed. If we had gone in the right spirit to the people who were in charge at that time of the church and been like, hey, this isn't working, let's find a better solution to this, I think that we would have seen another growth of success in our business as well as in the spiritual aspect of what we were doing. But we didn't, or they did. I didn't. I was a little more aggressive about it, and so in the end, the business still worked. We didn't fail, but it was the heart issue was wrong. We were worried about the success more than we were worried about the life change that was happening inside of the building, not just physically, but now spiritually. And those things were working in tandem really well for a period, and it saved us. I mean, frankly, it saved the gym for a bit because when COVID hit, we didn't have people coming in. Church could meet, so we had people coming in, and it saved us. But having the right perspective of success and having the right perspective of gaining things is vastly important.
Yeah, I've been trying to get in the mind of people who are about that life. I don't know if that's
About that life.
about that life.
What life you talking about?
The life of where everything is for me. I'm going to accrue as much as I can and do whatever I want. I don't know. I'm trying to get in the mindset of someone like that, and I have people around me who are that way, and they don't seem like joyful to me, and they don't seem happy, and they're like, yeah, but if I just had this, and I could do this, and if I could give as much time away and as I can from work, and then I could just be happy. And I'm like, I don't know if there's a circumstance in your life when you're living for yourself and doing everything you can for yourself and accruing as much as you can that you're going to be joyful, have joy in that. I don't see that happening. And which, I don't know.
I'm so glad that you brought this topic up because I'm just going to work through my message for tonight through this podcast.
Sweet, let's do it.
So in 2021, Goldman Sachs, the investment banking firm, they released a memo where they were mandating that all of their investment bankers reduce their hours a week worked from 100 hours a week worked to 80 hours a week. So they're still working double what 90% of the world works.
Insanity.
I was listening to a podcast, they were discussing it, and the interviewer asked, it's a different financial guy, but it's still in that world, and he asked me, he was like, I have friends who are investment bankers, and they're miserable. They spend literally their entire waking life accruing and gaining more money. They work 24/7, 365, they never are off. It's constantly getting new clients, gaining new funds. I think that it's like some kind of multi-million dollars that the bankers have to have on the books to keep their job. Like, it's an insane amount of money that they have to be in charge of to keep their job there. And the guy they were interviewing his response was, it's not made for everybody. He's like, there are people who are designed to work like that. There are people who are designed and the guy who was talking is a Christian. But he was saying, he was like, for your friend, if he's miserable in that lifestyle, it's the wrong lifestyle for him. He needs to be doing something else. He wasn't set to do that. And whenever you're talking about your friends who are like all about me, I think that inside of the church we have people who are called to be speakers and teachers. We have people who are called to be leaders and organizers. We have people who are called to be servants of God's people and of God. We have people who are called to be cleaners and builders and construction workers for the church and for his people. And then there are people who are the financiers of the whole project. There has to be people who can make enough money to make this thing work, or it doesn't work. Resources are necessary, or a necessary aspect to turn lights on and to plug stuff in and to have food for meetings and to create space and atmosphere for the word to be preached and taught to people. No matter if it's a small church or a big church, it still takes immense finances to make this thing flow. Those people who are working 100 hours a week and they're crushing it and killing it, a lot of times those are the people who are financing the mission of the church. Whether they can be on every serving team and be here every single Sunday and do everything all the time, but they're giving and they're helping the church continue to flourish. They need to be filled up. They need to be here to hear God's word preached. They need to be in their Bible. They need a spiritual growth and development themselves, of course. I'm not giving them an out here. But we can't vilify those people for being successful because they're a necessary part of this whole mission and going forward.
Sure, I agree with that as well. But I was just trying to say, I'm working through this as we're working through this podcast, but in the mindset of someone who doesn't care about anyone but themselves, doesn't have compassion, about anyone else but themselves. And it's like when you get up in the morning and you're thinking about like, what can I get? What can I do more that's going to benefit myself? I don't know. It's hard for me to get in a mindset of something. I lived that life before, and I was miserable. I literally was.
Yeah.
I was miserable, and I was
Me too.
depressed during those seasons of my life. And so, like, when I'm and like invite those people to church, I have a particular person in my head that I'm thinking about, or people in my head I'm thinking about. I invite them to church, tell them about Jesus. They're like, "Nah, I don't want anything to do with that. I hate that. I'm never going to come to church with you, or I don't tell me anything about the gospel because I don't care about it." And then I'm like, man, what is the point? I don't know.
I think we're talking about two different people.
Sure. Okay.
So I'm talking about there are people who are immensely successful who feel the need and the call to share what they give. Tad Krug, who's been a guest at Pointman before, he was immensely successful in the financial and insurance world. And he would not only tithe personally, he would tithe through his business. So his business gave 10% of what they earned back to the church. There are people who work immense hours, time, they accrue incredible resources. You also have to think about, when you're talking about those people, think about the difference in what we expect in income too. You look at someone who has fancy clothes, fancy shoes, nice car, big boat, and you're like, oh, they could give him so much more money. They may be giving an immense amount of money to the church. They may be giving immense amount of money and resources to the furthering of the mission. They have so much money that what is a little to them is a lot to somebody else. And so you can't vilify someone for, like, I got a new Mercedes today. It's like, oh, okay, cool. That's a Civic to me. Like, that's we're talking about a different world. Of level of investment and time and energy given. If it's someone who is just, it's all me, I don't need God, that's a heart issue. That's not a success issue. That's not an accrual issue. At the end of the day, it is worthless. I mean, that's what this verse is saying. It's like, if you, the parable of the rich fool, the farmer, he said he tears down the storehouse, he refills it, and he builds more. He has more ability to make more money and to be more successful. And Jesus says, tonight your cost will be your soul.
You're dead. So
there's nothing that you have done to this point financially. There's nothing you've done to be successful that tonight will save you from the outcome, which is you're about to give it up.
Yeah, and that verse 27 at the end, it says, "For the Son of Man is going to come to the Father's glory with his angels, and then he will reward each person for according to what they have done." With this life. So I don't know, it just speaks to me a lot, and I've been thinking about it a lot lately about, man, I want to tell everybody as much as I can about Jesus, and I trying to convince them as much as I can about, like, this is the way, this is the right way to do it. And it's been weighing on my heart a lot. And also with, like, the time and resources about, like, how much time should I devote to doing that versus time to devote to telling people about the gospel. And I think it's you got to blend it as best you can and find time for both, because both are needed. But one is worth a lot more than the other eternally.
You're talking about balancing being successful.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think that an underspoken evangelistic tool is the jobs that we have in our life and the things that we do.
That's true.
I know before I was here full time, I was in an insurance company, and I was always around people. And once they found out that I was a pastor, I got all the questions. I got any pushback, all the questions. I was like the office chaplain for a period of time, because I was the person in the office who had that title, and so that's who they would come to with these questions and things. That is such an underrated tool and an opportunity for us to share the gospel. I wasn't spending any less time necessarily doing my job and trying to be successful at what I was doing on a daily basis by doing that. In fact, I'm a firm believer that if you're doing something for God, that God makes the time for you to do the things that you're supposed to do. I've never been in a season where we've been doing this podcast or something and I've felt like there's just no time to do it. It seems like it works out. If we are focused and devoted to sharing the gospel, then the time gets created, the energy gets created, the resources come together, the things, the people, it starts to come together because God has ordained that thing to occur and has ordained that thing to happen. And so whenever you're balancing time, and some people are out of alignment. Some people are in a position in a job they need to move on from. Some people are in a spot that is just not set up for them. And for a season, you may have to deal with it. For me, that season was 12 years. But sometimes it is that way where it's like it's not time yet. I'm still learning what God is trying to teach me in this period of my life. It'll come. Be patient in it and sit in it. And sometimes you struggle through it. You struggle through, it's 10 o'clock at night, I got to go do this thing. And it's 10 o'clock, you got to go. And you got to go get it done. And I think whenever you can get in that mindset of like what's important is important and my boundaries are set appropriately and all the things are I'm doing everything I can do on my end, give it to God and allow God to direct the rest of that conversation.
Yeah, and then the whole verse to me kind of, it's a good, you do mission, vision, people. It's the vision. It's what's the whole thing. It matters. What the whole point is. Spending your life towards chasing God instead of things or whatever the world tells you you need to be chasing after. It's a good arrow, a good pointing arrow to say, hey, go this way. That's what it kind of means to me. Don't chase after the things of the world because it's not going to fulfill you. Chase after God because that's things that's actually going to fulfill you and make you do the right thing and be more fulfilled in your life. That's so
to pursue Him over things.
Exactly.
Yeah. Along the way, a few cool things. Cool.
Sure.
It's just one of those like you can't look at people who have been successful and be like, oh, you're going to hell.
Okay, what does this mean to you right here? Whoever wants to save their life will lose it. What does that mean to you? I'm gonna look up the other two as well because I think it says the same thing in Mark and Luke.
Yeah, if you want to take it upon yourself, your friends who are all about you, and they're like, I don't need the gospel, I don't need these things. Jesus isn't important. I've got everything I need. I'm happy. My family's healthy. I got money in the bank. All the things are going good. I don't need God. That's what
it means to you. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it.
Because you're taking it upon yourself to do everything. You're taking it upon yourself to be able to figure this thing out, this world out. I was listening to Arwen McManus talk one time, and he said that when he shares his faith with people who are ardent non-believers, one of the things that he'll do is he'll have them write out a moral code for themselves.
That's good.
And so create 10 commandments of Luke, if you will, and then live 60 days by the 10 commandments of Luke. You created them. You set the standard for yourself, and you'll still fail.
Yeah. Mark also says, for whoever wants to save their life will lose it. Whoever loses their life for me and for the gospel will save it. There's a story that my dad tells. He told it at my uncle's funeral. I don't know if I've ever shared this on the podcast. I might have. But my uncle was a guy who you would say lived for himself most of his life. And he passed away probably about 10 years ago now or 12 years ago now. But he lived for himself, and my dad will say this as well. But on his deathbed, my dad got to talk to him, and he got to share the gospel with him. And he knew his whole life. He knew what he was supposed to be doing, but he didn't always do that. Was always traveling around, doing the things that he wanted to do, always accruing money. And on his deathbed, my dad said he talked to him one time, and he said he woke up from a dream one night. And he said he had to talk to God after speaking with my dad about the Bible and everything. And he said he woke up and one morning he was like, I had life in this hand, I had money in this hand, life and money in this hand, and then women in this hand. He said, I give him up to God because I'm going to let him go. And that was on his deathbed. He said he's just giving him up to God. He's not going to think about those things anymore. He's not going to pursue those things anymore. But he's like, man, I wish I would have done that earlier in my life. He said he felt so much more free in that moment whenever he just give those things up to God. And if I could say anything to you guys right now, I was like, if you're holding on to that life and money and holding on to pursuit of happiness, pleasure, women, whatever, give it up to God now, because you don't want to do that on your deathbed. You're going to have lots of regrets. And my dad's like, yeah, he did have lots of regrets. I mean, he had a good time in his life, but what was it for? Yeah. And if you're going to give it up anyway on your deathbed, just give it up now.
Give it up now. Yeah, that is a powerful verse. Yeah. And it's a very challenging verse because it is you versus God, essentially, in a lot of ways. It's what can I overcome? What can I do on my own? What can I do with my resources I've accrued? What can I do with the money I've accrued versus We talked about it last week in the message. It was when you're going through a season of pain, you have two avenues. You can either take it upon yourself. You're infinitely limited in what you can control. Even if you're the most successful person in the world, you're still infinitely limited in your control.
Yeah.
Or you can give it to the creator of all things.
Yeah, I was thinking about that this week as well. As like I was thinking like, I don't know, just a really rich person and they're driving around in their car. They have the same chance of getting in a wreck and dying that I do. And they are infinitely more scared to die because of all the things they have. Me, I'm like, oh, whatever.
Take my truck,
yeah,
Lord.
Whatever. It's like, it's fine. But it just made me think, like, your money's not going to save you in a car wreck. I mean, you might have a nicer car, but like you hit by a semi, you're still going to die. And so I was thinking about that a lot lately. It's like, yeah, you might have a private jet, but your private jet can still crash, you know?
You're going through something, aren't you?
No. It's just I've been thinking about like things lately and possessions, about how it's like, it's worthless, man. It's to pursue those things in your life. In the end, it's like, it's not worth it. Like, stop stressing about it. Stop worrying about it, because like you have the same chance that I do driving around in your truck that you care so much about, or that all these things you're stressing trying to get, and all that money in your bank account, or all the giant house and all the land you have. We have the same chance of getting in a car wreck today. So, and what you have and what you put your time and effort and resources into is going to be gone in that moment. But things that people who are pursuing God and have Christians, that's stored up in heaven where moths can't take it and rust can't get to it and all that. So, sorry. Yeah, maybe I'm going through something.
Can I flip it though?
Sure.
So if you are someone who worships the accrual of wealth, you also could look on the flip side of that. And if you're someone who worships the release of wealth, worships poverty, worships this idea that I must be poor, you're still worshiping money.
Oh, I agree.
You're still worshiping your status. You're still trying to get to a status point. And so it's really not that different.
No, I agree with that. And if
you're just doing it poor,
what you need to worship is Jesus and God and his pursuit of him. That's what kind of what I'm getting to.
Yeah. That's good. No, that's really good. Cool. You got anything else?
I think that's good.
Awesome. Well, that's one off the cuff for you this morning, folks. Make sure you like and subscribe before you get out of here today. If you're on a podcast platform, again, please rate and review to help spread the podcast to other men and help them connect with their Bible and grow in their relationship with Jesus, as we are on a mission to make Jesus known to men everywhere. Until next time, I'm Zach and Luke.
See you.
See you.